All right. So in Virginia, there are rallies taking place and so forth in support of gun ownership and so forth. A lot of people asking me about my thoughts. Should be clear, but let's give another perspective here. And well, maybe not another. Maybe people echo the sentiment, and maybe people that agree with me. I'm sure they're going to be plenty of those. But for those that don't know, what's taking place is basically there's, be it by way of governor or what have you, new laws that lead to confiscation, red flag laws that are trying to be passed, have been sort of they've been talked about for the last couple of months here, as far as what's taking place in Virginia, and it's very dangerous in the sense that you are actually endorsing conflict, as in you are saying that officers, state agents, should go to people's door and take people's weapons. Now, I'm not a guy that usually appeals or ever really appeals to what the quote unquote Second Amendment. I don't ever do that. This is why you always see me talk about the importance of gun ownership, but you don't ever see me saying like Second Amendment rights or hear me saying that, because I'm of the belief that rights do not, rights are rights. And I don't need to appeal to the Constitution or a piece of paper to appeal to basically highlight what is right, what is just, or what is the right of the people. So I don't do that. Other people do that. That is their business. I know a lot of people are going to be. I just don't. So just understand why I'm not, having a debate about what's unconstitutional or anything like that. I don't even care to have that dispute. All I know is that individuals have the right to own property, and that property is, can be used to defend themselves, such as guns. Doesn't matter what kind it is. And the reason why I appreciate being in America over maybe other places is because, in this geographical area, is this is the one place that the individuals within it, there's a big enough number of people. Maybe they don't always extend it to the logical conclusion, but there's a large enough number of people that are within this geographical area that understand the importance of gun ownership, and they own a bunch of guns. Whereas to maybe in other places, it's so embedded in the culture that you shouldn't use it, that they have rendered themselves utterly useless in the event that the government decides to become a full-blown dictatorship and tyrannical, and to do things like, again, what they want to do in Virginia. That is, I believe, what keeps, when you consider the massive amounts of crimes, and by crimes I mean acts of actual aggression that this government has committed. This could have been a full-blown world empire in terms of, we're talking on the level of maybe, okay, let's not go there. Let's say this. I know they still try to play world police, but let's say this geographical area will be a lot worse off in the event that people did not understand the importance of gun ownership, whether it be by appealing to their beloved Constitution or what have you, whatever the core reasoning behind it is, it's important. I believe it keeps the government at somewhat bay. In fact, I want to show you guys a video where this is what
or city or Commonwealth still be.
If the bills go through as proposed, they will not be enforced. They're unconstitutional. We swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Virginia, and that's what we'll do. Outstanding. Yeah.
All right.
So what he is saying, the sheriff, is like, if the bills go through, we're not enforcing the laws, right? Now, I have a couple of theories as to why he's saying that. America would be a lot more freer society if the law enforcement actually held this logic across the board. Not necessarily talking about what's unconstitutional, but more so what is considered aggression upon peaceful people. Even their beloved Constitution, which has been crapped on and time and time again, even their beloved Constitution. Especially, I would argue, with their beloved Constitution, right? That's been. It's funny, we talk about gun ownership and people like to cling to that idea of the Second Amendment, and they just don't really understand the massive amount of gun laws that exist right now. The amounts of people that the cops arrest, or more so send to jail for illegal, quote unquote, ownership of guns. Not because they may be committed an act of aggression, but because they own a gun and didn't go through the hoops that they were supposed to jump through to own it. That thing's been crapped on long ago. Now, the reason why I say I have my thoughts, I think this because this particular law, unlike maybe some other victimless crime for the most part, this puts them in direct conflict. So I think this is why they're like, all right, man, we don't want to get shot. Therefore, we're not enforcing this. Because imagine how much freer the world would be, the country would be, if these people shared that, not just, again, whether it be local law enforcement, federal law enforcers, or what have you, if they upheld this logic of, even if it was with their beloved Constitution, even if it was with that, but if they just had the logic of, okay, acts of aggression are acts of aggression, but if you're not committing an act of aggression, and by aggression I'm meaning in the libertarian sense, and that's you are violating someone else's private property, be it through theft, be it through violence, those sorts of things. Doesn't matter. If they applied that across the board, we'd have a much freer society. But because they don't, we don't. But they are willing to not enforce this. And my thoughts, I'm willing to be wrong on this, but my actual thoughts are that this is due to the simple fact that, again, it puts them in direct conflict with people that, like, you're talking about the gun, right? So this puts them in direct conflict with people that knowingly have that. Most laws don't do that. And because, again, the people within the geographical area actually hold that to be important, at least to some sort of degree, not always consistent, but at least to some sort of degree, I think that's important. Now, I'm not the rally type. That's why I don't go to protests. I don't do that. I get offered a lot. Hey, would you come out, speak to it? I'm like, it's not my thing, man. I'm not about the idea of doing that. But if they want to do that, what have you, if they're going to be effective in it and whatever, that's their business. But gun ownership is very important. It is something that among other rights, when it comes to property ownership, I feel that is one that's a necessity, not only when it just comes to protection of self, but I believe this is what keeps, again, we're seeing a literal example of this, keeps government agents at bay, at least to some sort of degree. Now, the thing that a lot of people like to talk to, and it's funny, is basically what they're saying is bend over and take it, right? You have these people that are like, yeah, governments have tanks and what have you. Your AR-15 isn't going to do anything. For one, you're making an argument for freeing up the market in terms of owning more advanced forms of weaponry, which I support 100%. 100%. 100,000%. Again, too many laws. All gun laws are infringements, and there are plenty of those on the books right now. But it completely negates human history, America's history, and not only just Vietnam or what happened there, more so what happened, what's going on in the Middle East right now. Like, they just don't understand the concept of war. And either way, that's not an excuse to roll over. Like, okay, they have tanks, whatever, let's die fighting. Nonetheless, this is something that I think is very important. I do like the idea that there's some pushback by way of the people that are in Virginia that are saying, you know what, this ain't gonna fly, bro. This ain't gonna fly. And I love that there's people that are highlighting it. What I'm hoping to come from this is that people would stop looking at it from the standpoint of, okay, here's a new law. Let's talk about the ones that are on the books and get rid of those. You know what I mean? Because the infringement has already happened. And some of it's been implemented by the same people and enforced by the same people that these guys worship. These law enforcement officers, these politicians, your beloved NRAs of the world, which I considered the most milk toast gun organization out there. It's funny, or gun rights organization, because these leftists, you know, they act like the NRA is just like this cutthroat, unapologetic, no compromise institution, and they're not. Far from that. They compromise all the time. Some of the laws you have in the books right now came up by way of the NRA. But again, gun ownership is very important, and these laws. Maybe I got to start appealing to race, right? Because these laws, those are who. You want to talk about the history of gun control in this country, actually, the history of a lot of things, including minimum wage, have racist origins, believe it or not. Maybe that's what I need to start doing, is just point out the racist origins of gun control. Fugitive slave acts and stuff like that. Maybe that's what I need to talk about. And how, from the KKK on down, they wanted gun control in the sense to stop minorities from being able to shoot back at them. Black folks being able to shoot back at them. And even to this day, again, when you talk about these sorts of laws, a lot of people cannot, that in these communities, that cannot afford to jump through these hoops, right? Through these hoops. It acts just as any other regulation does. The ones that it impacts the most are the people that are not already at the top. Because the people that are already at the top are able to, you know, they have money and enough money to be able to combat that regulatory, those regulatory laws. Whereas to people that are not as economically, let's say, prosperous as some of the others, they can't jump through these hoops, pay this amount of money and do all of this just for the sake of protecting themselves. They shouldn't have to. Again, they have infringed upon nobody. And if people are wanting to commit act aggressions, like shoot people like in the form of murder, like as in using aggression, that's bad. But you don't stop that by way of implementing these gun laws. These gun law things, man, definitely when it comes to American culture, these are just things that Democrats and mainstream leftists advocate just to make themselves feel good. This is why they come up with these laws after any sort of like shooting or anything like that. And they come up with these laws that wouldn't have ever even stopped if the same law existed. It would have never stopped anybody from getting killed. But it just makes them go through the motions, so they feel like they're doing something. This is why they always say we have to do something. So even if it means making it harder for other people to own guns that have not committed any act of aggression on people, don't intend to use any acts of aggression on anybody, they'd rather make their lives more miserable instead of looking to other things to solve the issue, not banning guns, which, again, you're just creating conflicts out of that, more conflicts. But I'm talking like from a cultural standpoint, like what can make somebody crazy enough to go shoot something. Like, let's talk about that. You know what I'm saying? I talk about this all the time in certain communities and people's lack of ability to de-escalate situations. People like in the community, like, again, I say this as a person that used to bang, you know what I mean? And being so willing to use violence upon another person, that's all cultural, bro. Like that's something that no matter what types of laws you implement, that's not going to change. You may make it worse, if anything, but it's not going to change it from the opposite side. Like putting in gun laws aren't going to stop people from, you know, committing violence, acts of aggression upon other people. That's my thing. So I know a lot of people wanted my thoughts. I just want to give you a few minutes. Actually, I gave you like almost 14 minutes of my time to let you guys know all gun laws are infringements. I repeat, all gun laws are infringements.